So Blender 3.3 just dropped and everybody's talking about the new hair system, which is absolutely amazing, but I feel like not many other people are talking about some of the other updates that are also incredible. So in comes the line art modifier, which we've covered on this channel before. I've done a tutorial that completely covers the features of the line art modifier, and then most recently I noted that they had actually increased render times by 4 to 8 times faster. However, since then they've added some new features which give you a lot more control and are pretty cool. Now, you'll notice that all of these are set in this spheres collection, and that's because we have some new options in regards to that. So up here in the source type, you can select collection, and then we can choose to do spheres. And now that will add a outline to all the spheres. I'm going to go ahead and make that outline red and then just pump up the thickness there just so it's a bit easier to view during this video. Perfect. Great. So first, let's look at this new kind of light contour feature that we have. So what you can do is you can come down here and you can see we have a light reference. And what we can do is we can specify a light object there. And what that will do is determine like where that line art appears. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab this area light here, and you'll see that nothing changes. And that's because you actually need to come up here and turn on light contour. And then now you can see that we're getting these light contours where the light hits. So if I go ahead and move this light around, you can see how it's moving that line around. Now, the unfortunate thing with this, at least in what I found so far, is that it really kind of goes across the faces specifically, as you can see here. So in order to get a smoother line, you're going to really have to up to subdivision, but then you can come into the stroke settings and kind of play with some of those settings and hopefully help out there. But that is the one downfall I've noticed at this. But if I come back up here to the stroke, you'll see that we actually get some other settings too. So we can actually add a contact shadow now. So if I come up here and add this plane and scale this out, I'm going to go ahead, put this down here. And if we come back up here to our stroke settings, you can see that we can now actually also turn on a cast shadow and get a line around our shadow. So this is incredibly useful for kind of creating some stylized scenes. And if you're working in non-photorealistic rendering or toon shading, to get a lot of these elements generally required a ton of extra shaders and layers and things like solid line art modifiers and things like that to really kind of get this look. And with these new features, you can kind of get them quickly all within one modifier. But they actually have more features too. So let's take a look. We now have this illumination filtering option. And if you come up here, we can choose to only show the illuminated edges. You can see here that if I move this around, how that's only showing where we're getting illuminated light sources. So what you can actually do is you can actually come up in here and you could stack line art modifiers. So you could have one line art modifier that was kind of your light edges, and then you could move your lights around to get the perfect edging. And then you can have another one that is, say, the outline of your character with the silhouette. So you can see that we have these different filtering options down here, the shaded portion, and then the illuminated portion being the two primary ones of use case scenario. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this off for now so we can focus on one of the other features that is really cool too. So now we have a new silhouette functionality. And basically down here, if we come to the silhouette options up here for the edge types, we can go to silhouette or individual silhouettes. And you can see here, I'm going to delete this plane because it's kind of making it a bit hard to see. And right now, I've noticed it's a bit glitchy, so you sometimes have to move it off to kind of get it to update. So just be mindful of that if you don't see something appear. But you can see here that within collections, we now have the option to draw a silhouette around the entire collection, and we can turn off intersections there, or you can have it turn around individual silhouettes and it will do it across each one. So those are two options that we have there for silhouettes. And then lastly, we have something called intersection priority. Now, intersection priority is a new kind of like simple to use feature that kind of has some complex use case scenarios. So what it allows you to do is to determine the priority of intersections based on a intersection priority level that you can set. So what I can do is I'm going to take this sphere here. I'm just going to remove it from this collection here. And you can see how it's not updating. So if we move back and forth, it's updating. You see it's no longer there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a new material to the spheres. And we'll call this Pri 1 for priority 1. We'll go ahead, apply that one here as well. And then if you come down under the material settings, you see we have this line art settings here. And we have these various options there, which you can already use in the line art modifier. But specifically now we have this intersection priority. So I'm going to go ahead and tick that on. And you can set this to 0. And we'll come up here and we'll call this one Pri 2. And then we can come down here tick on the intersection priority and crank this up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this stroke here. Great. And we'll call this stroke 2. Perfect. And then what we'll do is we'll come up to the modifier. We'll go ahead, change this to blue so that we can see that a bit better. And we don't want that to be in the collection. We're going to change this to object, and then we're going to change this to our sphere that is sitting outside of the collection, which is sphere 02. Perfect. And now if I move this here, you can see how that is taking priority based off of the priority settings that we set in the material. Again, where this can be helpful is that if you have multiple materials on a character and you're trying to highlight things, so let's say that you had an anime character, for example, wearing a backpack, and you wanted that backpack to take priority over the character's body line artwork, you can do that. Or you can put kind of like accessories on the front of your character and set them to a higher priority to make sure that they are outlined ahead of your character's body. Now, I know this was just kind of a simple update video, but I just wanted to bring attention to some of these features because some of the other cooler features are getting a lot of highlights, but I feel like this has a lot of powerful implications. So I just wanted to share this. I hope you found it useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my free material pack with over 20 free materials, and all my courses and products are also on Gumroad if you'd like to check those out as well.